¿Qué tal, comunidad? Aquí habla su abogado Ray Ibarra Maldonado, como siempre, un gusto. Hoy estamos tocando el tema de el cargo formal, indictment against Donald Trump. Wow. How weird does that sound to say out loud? Indictment against President Donald Trump. Did you ever think, ladies and gentlemen, we would get to this day and people are nodding their heads? Oh, yeah, I knew it. I knew it for sure. I was very skeptical, to be honest with you. I thought that perhaps because he was a former president, and no former president in the history of the United States of America has ever been formally indicted, that maybe it wouldn't happen this time. Maybe he would just go away, fade into the sunset, and be over and done with. But no, he has not. He wants to run for office again, which probably spurs the continued investigation of his doings, and now he has been charged. So voy a empezar en inglés, pero también voy a cambiar a español, pero como siempre, ponen sus preguntas ahí en la idioma que ustedes quieren. So I'm going to start off in English, folks. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, Ray, what does it mean that he has an indictment? Like, that's a big old legal word. What does that mean? So an indictment means a formal charge against a person where either a grand jury or a judge has found probable cause that a crime was committed. Now, to understand this a little bit more, let me walk you through just criminal law 101 really quick. Police officers, FBI agents, ATF, whoever it is, they investigate wrongdoings, right? They put together reports, and if they believe a crime was committed, they can submit that documentation, that evidence, to the prosecuting agency, be it a local county attorney, a city attorney, U.S. Attorney's Office, if it's a federal charge, and they can say, prosecuting agency, based on our investigation, we believe these crimes were committed, and they can lay out crimes X, Y, and Z. And the law enforcement has the authority to go and arrest somebody and start that process. They don't need the prosecuting agency to agree, right? Think of it like a cop sees a crime in the street, they can arrest, take him to the court, start the process. That case then gets turned over, the evidence, the research, what charges the enforcement agency thinks should be had, to the prosecuting agency. So let's go county attorney in Maricopa County, U.S. Attorney's Office if it's a federal charge. That documentation is then read by the prosecuting agency, an attorney, a prosecutor, and they decide, hey, yeah, we agree. There's enough here to go forward with charges. Let's go ahead and present an information to the judge, charging them with what I believe is this crime. I believe there's probable cause, right? And that gets the criminal process started. Now, an information is enough to bring someone into court and have them begin the court process, but it doesn't become a formal court process until that case is presented, usually in secret, to a grand jury, where the prosecuting agency, not the defendant, not a defense attorney, they call in a law enforcement officer, and they have, I don't want to call it a mini trial, that gives it too much credence, because a trial to me needs both sides and needs chance for cross-examination. But they present their case to a group of private citizens, and at the end they say to the private citizens, we believe this crime was committed, XYZ crime, please tell us if you agree or not, right? And if there is an agreement, it doesn't have to be unanimous like it does in an actual jury trial, but if there is an agreement that a crime was committed, then that grand jury, a secret group of people, private citizens, can say, we believe so, and the indictment comes back and the formal process starts. That's a very long explanation to tell you how Donald Trump is now in hot water. For months and months, the case was presented to the grand jury, and even before county attorney's office and U.S. attorney's office looked into these allegations, and they decided not to charge. Now they are moving forward, and what is it based off of, right? Real answer, real lawyer answer here, we don't know yet completely, because the indictment is what's called under seal. So the indictment's under seal. It'll probably be unsealed on Tuesday when we're expecting he has his arraignment. And arraignment is the process where you get in front of the judge. The judge says, defense counsel, how do you wish to proceed? And normally a defense counsel would say, Your Honor, I wish to waive a formal reading of the indictment, plead not guilty to all charges, deny any forfeiture allegations, and would like to this matter set for trial, Your Honor. Right? And usually the defendant doesn't say anything. Judge just says, okay, affirm release conditions if they were set in initial appearance, and person go on their way. A little bit of a twist here, right? Because Donald Trump has not been arrested yet on this charge. He was asked to turn himself in to the court or to the jailhouse today. The Secret Service said, no, we can't make arrangements for that in time. So it looks more likely that he'll show up on Tuesday, which is what I would expect in a high-profile criminal case instead of him being arrested and the perp walk that everybody wanted, that they will allow him to show up at that first court hearing and likely still order him to go for fingerprints at the jail and start the criminal process. But I don't think there's a need at the beginning, or will there be jail time or crazy release conditions set, because in all intents and purposes, right, the Secret Service knows where this guy is at. What's the chance of him being a flight risk or a danger, which is the reason why you keep somebody detained pre-trial on criminal charges. Clearly, I'm speaking as a defense attorney here and not so much speaking as an advocate or a friend of Trump, because I am not. 100% I am not. Nonetheless, the criminal process still must play itself out, and that's what we're dealing with right here, is this formal indictment that will be read and unsealed very likely on Tuesday. Now, we're hearing from different sources that there's expected to be 30 counts or more, which as a defense attorney is like, oh, wow, that's a serious case, right? If you see a 30-count indictment, that means a significant amount of time went into preparation, investigation, and presentation in front of the grand jury. Those 30 counts, though, it's a possibility that they're all related to one single incident, and the one single incident that's coming up the most is this payment to Stormy Daniels. What is the juiciness behind that? Absolutely unbelievable. A 60-year-old married man meets a porn star at a golf tournament and says, please come up to my room for dinner. They then have sex. And then Trump's running for office and decides he wants to pay her off so she doesn't tell anybody about what happened, because at the time his wife was married, had a 4-month-old baby, and obviously he's the one that fact to come out with the party that he's running for, the Family Values Party, to know that a married man with a 4-month-old baby at home paid off $150,000 to a porn star that he slept with, that he met at a golf tournament. Right? That's in a nutshell the foundation of the facts for this case, because everything else develops from that. So Michael Cohen was his attorney, his fixer at the time when he was running for office. He reached out to Stormy Daniels. He arranges the payment to be made from his own personal account, from the line of credit he has on his mortgage, and later gets reimbursed over $400,000 from Trump's companies, as payment for legal services, right? It's not illegal to pay somebody off to not spread juicy rumors about you so you can run for president. That's not necessarily an illegal in and of itself. However, if you make payments and they're qualified as related to the election, or if you falsify documents and say it's legal fees, but they're not, it's actually hush money related to the campaign, then that's when it starts getting into the gray area or even the criminal area, right? So what we're seeing right now is that going down, and there's also belief that some of the charges might be unrelated to that. Again, Michael Cohen's already gone to prison. He's already pled guilty, right? So if Michael Cohen was guilty for his role in this, wouldn't Trump have been guilty in conspiracy to whatever Cohen pled guilty to? Very likely, but there is the burden of proof, guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and Trump, as much as I hate him, was probably intelligent enough to try to leave some layers there of protection, but you never know. Sometimes people can be pretty stupid. The E in email, ladies and gentlemen, stands for evidence and make sure you're careful there with your emails and your text messages, etc., etc. So we're going to see him in court on Tuesday. It'll be unveiled. Possibly we're also hearing rumors that charges related to fraud in terms of applications, that he was falsifying the amount of worth of his businesses and getting loans and whatnot. So that could also be added to the charge. Again, going to be a tough one that a multi-millionaire mogul who has accountants and a team of people doing these kinds of paperwork for him, that he himself was culpable for it. But nonetheless, it is moving forward. We're hearing also rumors that there's a case coming out of Georgia that'll be a stronger case than this one, that is actually related to the attempt to influence the election, and of course the January 6th still being investigated. So both of those cases could lead to more significant charges in the future. But as of now, that's what we know, ladies and gentlemen. An indictment, formal charges, Trump expected in court on Tuesday. Happy to do another video on that if people find it interesting. Drop a comment below if you would wish to have another video on Tuesday when that indictment is unsealed, so I can go through the charges on what that indictment is. Right now we're thinking, again, it's related to the Stormy Daniels incident and likely a felony if they're filing it over there in Superior Court and asking them to show up for an arraignment and not a lower level court. Again, this is based on my knowledge of Arizona law. I am not licensed in New York, so I'm not familiar with the New York local criminal process. Right? Questions, comments, concerns, please go ahead and drop them down below, and happy to get them answered for you as best as I can. I'm going to switch over to Español. Voy a cambiar a Español, but if you have your questions in English, go ahead and lay those down as well. Okay? So, ¿qué tal, comunidad? Hoy es un día que no esperaba yo que íbamos a ver, pero muchos dijeron que sí iba a pasar. Ayer anunció que hay un cargo formal, un indictment en contra del presidente Trump. Y muchos me están diciendo, abogado, ¿qué es un indictment? ¿Qué significa eso? So, para explicar eso mejor, voy a revisar un poco como clase de casos penales 101 aquí en la Universidad de Abogado Ray, para que ustedes entiendan qué es un indictment. Okay? So, cuando una persona comete un crimen, o ellos piensan, la policía piensa que hizo un crimen, la policía puede arrestar a la persona en ese momento y escribir un reporte, o si ellos están investigando, lo pueden documentar, hacer mucha investigación, y cuando ellos piensen que hay causa fundada por un arresto, causa probable que hicieron un crimen, lo pueden arrestar. Eso empieza el proceso penal. Lo manda al corte y lo entrega esta investigación y los cargos que piensa la policía, FBI, la agencia que investiga crímenes, piensa que le hicieron, y lo entregan a los fiscales. Si es local, son los fiscales en la ciudad o el condado o de estatal, o si es federal, le mandan a los abogados del U.S. Attorney's Office para empezar con cargos federales. Esos abogados no tienen que hacer lo que la policía, FBI, ICE quieren. Ellos pueden decir, no pienso que voy a seguir con este caso, esa persona la puede liberar al juez. Y en primera audiencia el juez dice, no hay cargos formales, o a veces la segunda corte, no hay cargos formales, no tiene que regresar, hay 7 años para que ellos pongan los cargos de nuevo los fiscales. Si los fiscales quieren seguir con el caso, entonces ellos escriben lo que se llama una información para entregar al juez al primer caso. Eso es diciendo, juez, yo, el fiscal, estoy de acuerdo que la policía, la agencia que hizo la investigación, hay suficiente evidencia que hizo un crimen esa persona. Eso empieza el caso penal y el juez puede determinar si lo van a liberar y eso va a estar encarcelado mientras que el proceso sigue. Luego, si quiere seguir con los cargos, al fin de día la persona tiene que declarar culpable rápido o tiene que mandar el caso a un jurado secreto o en frente de un juez para cargos formales. Eso es el indictment. ¿Verdad? Significa que en esta audiencia, que si es el jurado secreto, es secreto. Yo no sé, nadie sabe, es bajo puertas cerradas y nada más son los fiscales, el jurado y la persona testificando, normalmente el agente o alguien que leyó el reporte, explicando qué pasó. Ese grupo de personas privados, el jurado secreto, escucha la evidencia. Si piensa que hay suficiente evidencia para cargos, lo regresan con un indictment o con un cargo formal. Esos son los cargos que el gobierno tiene que probar más una duda razonable en un juicio en el futuro. Esos cargos son los cargos que tenemos ahorita. Lo que sabemos es que había una investigación, presentaron el caso al jurado secreto y el jurado secreto dijeron sí hay razón para pensar, probable cause lo que dicen, que Trump cometió unos crímenes. Está sealed ahorita, que significa que no es público. Nadie sabe los cargos exactos. Martes, cuando él está en corte, a lo mejor el juez va a decidir que lo abren los cargos para que pueda ser público. Eso normalmente pasa cuando la persona está en su primer corte. Estamos escuchando que hay más de 30 cargos en este cargo formal y muchos están relacionados a un pago que hizo su ex abogado, que también declaró culpable y fue a prisión, relacionado a un pago que hicieron a una persona que él tenía relaciones cuando él estaba casado. Esa persona se llama Stormy Daniels y su ex abogado Michael Cohen lo pagó a ella $150,000 para que no cuente su historia cuando él estaba corriendo para presidente. Lo hicieron porque cuando pasó eso, Trump todavía o ya estaba casado y su bebé tenía 4 meses. Y él hizo eso con esa mujer y no quería que nadie sabe durante la elección. Entonces Cohen, el ex abogado de Trump, declaró culpable, hizo tiempo en prisión y piensan muchos que está relacionado a este caso que Trump tenía antes o Cohen tenía antes. También piensa que está relacionado a sus negocios, que él está falsificando documentos cuando está pidiendo préstamos de compañías por sus compañías, ¿verdad? A bancos por sus compañías. No sabemos de seguro, pero pensamos que esas son las dos razones por qué hay cargos formados en contra de Trump. Todavía va a ser posiblemente un caso más pesado en Georgia y quizás relacionado al 6 de enero también, pero son los principios. Una persona puede correr para el presidente si están bajo un cargo formal. Sí puede. Sí puede correr de todos modos, aunque si tiene felonía. Él no puede votar por su propio mismo, pero puede correr para el presidente si él quiere. Obvio, él lo está usando como él es una víctima y pidiendo dinero de personas por su defensa legal. Y sí es posible al fin de día, con tantos abogados, con tanta investigación, que al fin de día va a juicio y el jurado declara él no culpable. No inocente, pero no culpable. Sí, muchas personas piensan que es un caso difícil de probar, porque en el caso penal tiene que probar más de una duda razonable que él es culpable, y ojalá tiene suficiente evidencia para hacer eso, pero si no, de seguro van a ir a juicio y van a pelear el caso muy duro sus abogados, especialmente porque está corriendo para el presidente. Obvio, yo no soy un fan de Trump, odio todo lo que él hizo en contra de nuestra comunidad y no quiero escuchar nada positivo para él en políticas, en su vida, nada, pero al fin de día sí estamos hablando de historia. Nunca hemos visto un expresidente con cargos formales de una felonía después de su presidencia, y es algo que normalmente estamos acostumbrados a ver en otros países cuando cambia poder entre otro partido y ponen cargos a las personas que salió. Ya estamos viendo eso en Estados Unidos. Si hay alguien que merece todos los presidentes que hemos tenido, pues probablemente es Trump, ¿verdad? No voy a llorar para él, eso es seguro, pero también si quiere nuestro equipo en su defensa, ni por todo el dinero del mundo vamos a ayudar a esa persona. Mucho suerte a los fiscales, unas palabras que probablemente nunca en el futuro va a escuchar de mi boca, pero mucha suerte a esos fiscales en contra de este presidente. ¿Okay? Cualquier pregunta, cualquier duda que tiene, siempre puede poner en los comentarios, aunque no está en vivo. Andamos hoy nada más en Facebook, en YouTube, pero también en Instagram. Mis amigos de Instagram, saludos. Y otra vez, si no está viendo en vivo, nos puede preguntar después. Aquí estamos listos para servirle. Feliz día de César Chávez. Nos vemos, comunidad.